Multiculturalism is an aspect of society that has been a growing topic as of recent, especially when it comes to representation of minorities within certain media. For example, let's take a look at how Empire, the Fox broadcast series, came to be. What it entails. It is a black-centric piece of media that is primarily geared towards African Americans, giving them a chance to have a lens that is representative of their views and of their experiences here in America. However, as the discussion around multiculturalism goes on, there are plenty of voices that argue in favor of this trend, as well as those who argue against it. Let's talk about people who are in favor of multiculturalism. The idea behind multiculturalism is that it allows us as a society to experience different viewpoints and to celebrate diversity and embrace our differences. Here we can define difference in a racial context. The idea behind difference in the context of multiculturalism is that we identify that there are differences in our cultures and within our backgrounds. For example, I will never understand what it is like to be a black male in the United States of America. I will never understand the unique challenges that an Asian woman will experience here in the United States of America. The detractors of multiculturalism, however, argue for nationalized identity. The argument behind nationalized identity is one that's extremely popular with alternative right people, those who are proteges, for example, of Richard Spencer, the white supremacist alt-right neo-Nazi who is known for stirring up a bunch of vitriol whenever he goes to try and engage in speaking events, try to propagate his white nationalist agenda. And that's something that is being pushed back not just here in America, but across other countries. Some of the articles that I viewed took a critical look at how media can propagate multiculturalism and how it can essentially push out the white heterosexual male lens. For example, New Zealand's public broadcasting system tends to promote multiculturalism and the acceptance of diversity. But in the article that I viewed, it's argued that it is a neoliberal propaganda machine and that the government should be using its own resources as a way to promote diversity. So that public broadcasting system is a way to include those diverse viewpoints. There were two articles, however, that talked about the downfall of multiculturalism, specifically within the UK and with Germany. Following the 2005 London terrorist bombing, multiculturalism and multiculturalist ideals started tanking. So that means that the differences amongst races and amongst religions were really stratified. They were made more known because all of a sudden we had people who were claiming back and who were expressing ideals that honestly advocated for the pushing out of people who maybe did not fit a nationalized identity. However, some of the articles that I did look at also promoted multiculturalism. There is an article that I viewed that was based in Canada, and the argument was that even in a society that has, for the most part, accepted multiculturalism, there's still a need to promote it because it is unnecessary to let go of those ideals. They need to continue to be propagated throughout society to promote diversity, to promote reaching across the differences and talking with each other. And that's a really important role that media can play, is that media can help us reach across the divide and try to understand each other. However, there are going to be people who don't want that, people who want media to be representative of their sole identity. A common argument might be, well, there's black entertainment TV, why isn't there white entertainment TV? Most cultural scholars would argue that there's already white entertainment TV, that a majority of media is created to satisfy the white heterosexual male gaze, specifically the white part of it. If a white man cannot identify with that medium, if it doesn't specifically tick off the boxes of appealing to middle-class, white, usually blue-collar workers, then they do not value it and they will demand that to have media that is more representative of them. Going just beyond race, let's look at even gender identity. I mean, Modern Family introduced an openly gay couple and presented them with stereotypes. Now, barring my own personal feelings about that, Modern Family was one of those series on ABC that really stood out from the pack because it included two gay husbands into normal everyday life. And when we go back to diverse media in the aspect of race, we see that there are more forms of media that are trying to be more inclusive. We're seeing forms of media where the black guy doesn't get killed first, being that they break from that trope and allow a black male character to live for most of the film or the television series. But we still see a lot of traditional norms within culture propagated in our media. Even on black created media, there still exists a lot of these stereotypes that have been propagated throughout the years. They've been passed down from season to season to season, themes that repeat across different shows. But the general direction is that these media forms are becoming more inclusive. For example, one of my favorite shows is Doctor Who, BBC sci-fi series. In the current series, the main companion to the main character of the Doctor is a woman named Bill Potts. She is a black woman, she is a lesbian, and she doesn't always conform to racial or gender stereotypes. So it's a huge step in a progressive direction for the portrayal of diverse characters in media. One final note. Just because that we have multicultural media does not mean that the white man is not represented well. There's plenty of movies where there's going to be some edgy white heterosexual male character, mind you, who is just going to be there to engage in violent acts, try to be the hero, etc., etc. There is not, in my opinion, a dying down of white identity. White identity is still present in our media. It is our job as media creators and as media scholars to promote multiculturalism and to allow its spread to really go in a positive and progressive direction. Those are my thoughts on multiculturalism and really just covering the distance and closing the difference between different cultural identities.